In this article, we're discussing the mid-sized 2024 Dell XPS series, the Dell XPS 149440. Dell decided to bring back the 14-inch XPS after many years of not offering an option in this class, and this replaces the XPS 13 Plus model and slots in underneath the XPS 169640 as a more compact and lightweight device with similar features and somewhat similar capabilities. All the 2024 XPS laptops step away from the traditional design lines of past XPS 13/15/17 models and instead get their design keys from the XPS 13 Plus, which means the traditional inputs are ditched for a short-stroke keyboard with partially haptic keys and a large haptic touchpad, and the I/O is minimal and relies mostly on USB-C ports. At the same time, the XPS 14 remains a premium-level computer in terms of design and build quality, as well as a versatile series available in a handful of colors and display and configuration options. We'll discuss these options down below, explaining the particularities of the XPS 149440 2024 model and how it compares to the large XPS 16 variant, as well as how it fares against the XPS 15 of previous years. So the XPS 14 starts at £3.7 for the non-touch IPS configuration and £3.8 for the OLED touch model, which gets an extra layer of Gorilla Glass Victus over the panel, adding to the weight. In comparison, the XPS 15 started at just under £4.2, while the XPS 16 starts at £4.7. And you should also consider that the XPS 14 comes with a slightly smaller charger. Size aside, though, the XPS 14 and 16 are nearly identical designs, with the only difference being the narrower speaker grills that flank the keyboard on the 14-inch chassis. Otherwise, these get the same peculiar keyboard design, the haptic media keys at the top, and the glass armrest with the seamless haptic touchpad. They also get the exact same I/O on the sides. Overall, this XPS 14 is one of the most beautiful Windows laptops available today, with excellent attention to detail and craftsmanship and good quality materials. One could perhaps argue that the lid looks a bit dated with that big Dell logo in the middle, and perhaps a refresh with a more subtle logo would have been nice. But that aside, you can hardly fault this design in any way. Ergonomics, on the other hand, are subject to some nitpicking, especially around the inputs. These have been previously implemented in the XPS 13 lineup, so there's already plenty of feedback on how this short-stroke keyboard with large keys and minimal spacing between works in comparison with other keyboards. There's also feedback on the seamless touchpad, which is still placed in the middle of the armrest, but is not physically indented in any way. And it doesn't depress like a traditional touchpad. Instead, the responsive haptic. For general use, I'd be fine with these unusual keyboards and the lack of proper F keys. But for any sort of professional use, such as editing content or programming or any other specific tasks, having to adapt to this keyboard layout might not be worth the effort. And then there's the I/O, which is minimalistic. That means you'll have to rely on USB-C only ports, an audio jack, and a micro SD card reader. That's all. And yes, adapters for U.S.A and HDMI are included, but I still would have preferred if those were actual ports. If Apple can put a proper HDMI and SD card reader on their MPB 14, I'd expect Dell would as well on what's one of the most visible MVP competitor in the Windows space. There's a 14.5-inch 1610 display on the XPS 149440 series, a format available with a handful of other 14-inch premium devices these days. Dell keep the bezels around the display tiny, including those at the bot 0M and top, although there's still space at the top for the camera, 1080p, mics, and the light sensor. For more video, please subscribe to my channel.